The sky was lavender, veined with green lightning that forked silently through distant clouds. Beneath it, the landing party stood frozen, their visors reflecting the impossible, a structure, ancient and immense, rising from a field of obsidian sand. It wasn't on the scans. No heat, no EM emissions. It had simply been there, waiting. Commander Marcus Thanes stepped forward. His boots sank slightly into the black grit. He could feel the weight of it through the suit. The gravity was wrong here, heavier in ways the numbers didn't explain, as if the ground wanted to hold him. The temple loomed like a cathedral carved into a cliffside, its surface jagged and weather-worn. Monolithic pillars rose into the stormy sky, each carved with symbols that didn't match any known language. But it wasn't just the writing. It was the figures, statues, dozens of them, 10 meters tall. Humanoid, but not human. Eyes too large, arms ending in curved crescents. They stood in rows along the staircase that led into the black maw of the temple entrance, hands resting upon objects that resembled both weapons and instruments. Marcus turned to his second-in-command, Lieutenant Sora Hale. "Thoughts?" Sora stared up at one of the figures. "They're not guarding it," she said slowly. "They're worshipping it. Look at the posture." He noticed it now. Every statue leaned ever so slightly forward, as if bowing, as if waiting for something. To return, the science officer, Grayson, stepped up to a pillar and aimed his scanner. No life. No power sources, no residual heat, but he tapped the screen. These materials are older than any traceable civilization, maybe pre-stellar, but that would make them millions of years old. Marcus looked past the statues, into the dark. Then he heard it, a low tone, vibrating in his teeth more than his ears. Subsonic. Ancient. It came from inside. He tapped his comms. "Command, this is Marcus. We've discovered something. It's not natural, not entirely." Crackling, static answered. No signal. The sky above twisted again, clouds tightening in strange spiral formations, and the statues. They didn't move, but Marcus could have sworn one was now looking at him. The air inside the temple was unnaturally still, like the moment between lightning and thunder, stretched into infinity. It was colder, too, not the cold of space or shadow, but a deep, intentional cold, as if the walls were remembering something or someone. Commander Marcus Thanes stepped through the threshold, pulse steady, rifle slung but unraised. His helmet lights cast cones across the vast chamber, revealing murals that covered every inch of the stone interior. They told a story, not in words, but in images. Each wall held a progression, great figures descending from the stars, greeted by smaller beings in awe. Then flames. Collapse. The final panel showed the smaller beings kneeling before the towering figures, now stone, now unmoving. Sora's voice crackled through the comms. "Sir, these murals, they don't show a war, they show surrender." Grayson, trailing behind them with his scanner, frowned. "No known culture in galactic history has left architecture this pristine. These walls are older than any carbon-datable strata, and still they hum." Marcus approached the central dais. It was circular, slightly raised, etched with symmetrical grooves that spiraled outward. In the center stood another statue, different from the ones outside. This one had arms crossed, face obscured by a helm that was neither alien nor human, and beneath it, embedded in the floor, was a dark obsidian orb the size of a man's skull. Marcus crouched. His gloved fingers hovered above it. It pulsed once, only once, and then the world shifted. He was standing in a void, not darkness, absence. Stars flickered overhead, but they didn't move. Time felt irrelevant here. The ground beneath his boots was made of memory. And before him. The statue moved. Its stone flaked away like old skin, revealing something beneath, not flesh, but light wrapped in shape, as though geometry had learned how to dream. It looked at him, and Marcus knew it wasn't just observing. It was reading. "You came too soon," it said, not in words but in impressions behind the eyes. You hear the echo, but do not know the voice. Marcus tried to speak, but nothing came out. The being stepped closer. "We slept to protect you, we became. Stone to seal what followed us." Suddenly, behind the being, the sky cracked, a fracture in the void. Something writhed in that split. Blacker than shadow, hungrier than death. The voice grew colder, urgent. "It has seen you. Now it remembers. Now it will come." Marcus awoke with a violent jolt, sprawled on the temple floor. His team surrounded him, alarmed. His suit had flatlined. "For 92 seconds. Commander!" Sora gripped his shoulder. "Are you with us?" He gasped, struggling to breathe. "It's sealed. This place. It's not a tomb. It's a lock." Grayson looked uneasy. "Then what's the key?" Marcus turned to the orb, which now pulsed like a heartbeat. He didn't have the answer, but he knew this much. They hadn't discovered a ruin. They had triggered something ancient, and it was no longer asleep. The orb wouldn't stop pulsing. It throbbed once every 10 seconds, like a slow cosmic heartbeat echoing through the stone beneath their boots. Marcus stood over it, transfixed. The pulse didn't radiate heat or light. It radiated awareness, as if the orb was now aware of him and somehow tethered. Grayson circled the dais, his voice uneasy. "It's emitting a gravitational signature that fluctuates every time Marcus gets closer. Not strong enough to pull, but definitely responsive." Sora frowned. "Like it's sinking?" Marcus didn't respond. Something had changed in him since his vision, or whatever it was. His perception felt stretched, expanded. The walls hummed to him now. The symbols on the statues seemed to subtly shift when he wasn't looking directly at them, but the most unsettling thing of all, he could hear a voice in the silence. It didn't speak in language. It breathed. Dust fell from the ceiling like ash, disturbed by some invisible breath. It whispered through the cracks in the stone, curling into Marcus's ears and settling behind his eyes. "You are not chosen. You are present." A low vibration passed through the floor. Sora turned. "Sir, we have movement." At the far end of the chamber, an entire wall slid back with a grinding roar, revealing a staircase descending into utter blackness. No lights, no scanners could map beyond the first few meters. It was as if the void beyond rejected technological eyes. Marcus took a breath and stepped forward. Grayson grabbed his arm. "We don't know what's down there." Marcus glanced back. "We didn't know what was up here either." They descended. Step by step, the temperature dropped. There, breath fogged inside helmets. Symbols glowed faintly along the walls in a color that defied proper classification. Something between blue and bone. The staircase spiraled for what felt like hours. Then it opened into a vast underground chamber, the true heart of the Eye Temple. And there it was, a colossal stone construct embedded in the cavern floor like the hilt of a sword stabbed into a corpse. A giant humanoid shape, easily 40 meters tall, curled in a fetal position, entirely carved from obsidian, but laced with veins of dull red crystal. It was a statue. "No!" Grayson gasped. "That's not carved. That's fossilized." Marcus approached slowly, heart pounding. The head of the figure was bowed, and at its base, resting in the center of a coiled platform of bone-like arches, was an indentation, orb-sized. Without a word, Marcus stepped forward and placed the orb into the slot. It clicked, and the entire cavern breathed. Stone shifted. Crystals lit up. The air pulsed with subharmonics that made blood vibrate in their veins. The massive fossil stirred, not movement but memory, a recording. The crystal veins illuminated like circuits coming back online. Then a projection unfolded before them, three-dimensional, layered, ancient. They saw the arrival, not of humans, but of the Shapers, a race of beings who had seeded countless worlds long before Earth had cooled. Eos 9 had been their sanctuary, their vault, and their prison, for they were not alone. The memory showed shadows, writhing masses without form, feeding on thought and light. The Shapers fought them using sound, geometry, and sacrifice. And they sealed one of these entities beneath this very temple, inside the colossal being they now saw. The statue was a guardian, a living lock. And the orb Marcus carried? It was the breath that woke it. You are not chosen. But the door is open, and it knows your name now, Marcus Thane. The projection ended. Silence reclaimed the chamber. Sora stepped back, trembling. We didn't just find a tomb, we found a weapon. Marcus didn't respond, because the voice inside his skull now whispered something new. We remember you. In the last cycle, you failed, and then the colossal eye of the fossilized being cracked open, not fully, not entirely, just enough to reveal that whatever slept within it was beginning to wake. At first, it was just a hairline fracture, a single glowing line running vertically through the eye of the colossal being, faint, like moonlight behind cracked glass. But the moment it appeared, the chamber shifted. The air became thick, oppressive, not with heat or weight, but with presence. Marcus stared into the fracture and felt it stare back. He is awake, not fully, not yet, but aware. Commander, Sora's voice was hushed, uncertain. We need to go. Whatever this place was built to contain, it's responding to you. Grayson was frantically scanning the fossilized form. I'm detecting synaptic patterns. There's activity inside that thing, like a brain rebooting. Marcus didn't move. He could feel the words forming behind his lips, though they weren't his own. He is the lock. I was the breath. Now he dreams again. His hands were trembling. Suddenly, the chamber groaned, not from stress or structural failure, but as if the very stone had exhaled. Symbols on the walls lit up one by one, forming a spiral of light that led toward the statue's chest. There, embedded just beneath the surface, was a circular mechanism, half submerged in crystal. It began to turn, slowly, with resistance, then faster. Then a burst of sound, not a scream, not a roar, something deeper, a song, a low-frequency chant that bypassed the ears and went straight into the bones. Marcus fell to one knee, clutching his head. Sora and Grayson did the same. Their helmets couldn't block it. You unsealed the breath. Now the lock must choose, and then... He moved. The giant's fingers twitched. One arm unfurled with the grinding sound of stone against time. Debris fell in clouds. 1,000 years' slumber, cast off like dust from a forgotten book. The being sat up, fully. Its face was still mostly covered by obsidian plating. But what little showed beneath the cracks shimmered with light. Not metal, not flesh. Something in between. Something designed. Marcus tried to speak. His voice came out cracked. Who are you? A second voice responded. Deep, hollow, yet impossibly ancient. I am Nazareth. I was built to sleep. You were built to forget. The being turned its gaze toward Marcus and reached forward. Not to strike, but to touch. A single digit, massive as a tower, hovered above his chest. Marcus's heart felt like it would burst from his ribs. Then contact, and he saw it all, not as memories, as imprints, a cycle, worlds born, harvested, burned, civilizations rising, reaching the stars, and then meeting the dark. Not a species, not an empire, a force, something that devoured awareness, erased not just life, but the concept of life. And the Shapers, in desperation, had created guardians, not weapons, but living locks to cage what couldn't be killed. And Nazareth had been the final key. He had failed before, and now, awakened early, he was unsure if the cycle could be broken this time. Marcus stumbled back, gasping. Blood trickled from his nose. Sora caught him. What happened? What did it do to you? He looked up at the towering figure who now knelt, its form cracking further with each breath. It remembered me, Marcus whispered. And it's afraid. Grayson paled. The Guardian's afraid? Marcus nodded. Because whatever's coming, it's no longer sealed. Suddenly their comms burst to life with overlapping voices from orbit. Commander, this is Odyssey Station. We're picking up energy spikes across the planet. Something is coming from below. Multiple contact points. They're not human. Not local. Not known. Sir, they're everywhere. Marcus turned back to Inzereth. The Guardian's body was crumbling. Not dying. Transforming. Its stone was liquefying into hovering fragments, forming sigils in the air. Its voice echoed, for the last time. I will buy you time. Take the breath. Find the others, or this world will not end. It will be forgotten. A blinding flash. Then silence. The orb leapt from its socket into Marcus's hands, now glowing like a miniature sun. The Guardian was gone, but above them the cavern ceiling began to shake, and something was coming through. The ceiling didn't crumble. It peeled, a spiral seam in the stone above them, previously indistinguishable from the architecture, slowly twisted open, not like a door forced ajar, but like flesh unwinding from ancient bone. Light spilled through, not warm, not white, ultraviolet and wrong, the kind of light that made your eyes ache and your skin feel too tight. It painted the temple walls in shades that didn't belong in any human spectrum, making everything shimmer with an oily iridescence. Marcus held the orb tightly. It pulsed in his grip like a second heart. Back, he commanded, voice sharp. Back up the stairs. Now! They obeyed. As the team fled the temple's core, the sounds from above followed. Cracks, whispers, and a strange, metallic ticking, as if a million claws were tapping in unison. Something had noticed the awakening. Something had been waiting for it. The climb back to the surface was maddening. The spiraling stone steps seemed longer now, twisted slightly wrong, as if the temple were reshaping itself in protest. Grayson stumbled once, falling hard against the wall, where a glowing glyph pulsed beneath his hand. For a split second, his pupils dilated until they were pitch black. Marcus yanked him up. "Don't touch anything," he growled. They finally breached the upper chamber, but they weren't alone. The air shimmered, then tore. A rift opened near the dais, a wound in reality, and through it came a shape that should not have been able to exist. No legs, no eyes, just mass. A churning amalgam of tendrils, wings, and rotating teeth. Its surface rippled like wet stone, its form constantly changing, rejecting stability. It moved with a silence so profound it made the ears ring. Sora froze. Grayson whispered, "That's not alive. That's conceptual." Marcus raised his rifle. The thing turned toward him, or at least it chose to notice him, and everything around them dimmed. Even the lights in their suits faltered. "It does not see you. It sees your memory of yourself, and it hates what you remember." The creature struck. A lance of folding space lashed out, collapsing the floor where Marcus had stood seconds before. He rolled behind a fallen column, lifting the orb instinctively, and the moment it was exposed to the creature's view, it screamed, not in pain, in recognition. The orb glowed red now, angry, defensive. Symbols lifted from its surface, floating around Marcus like a shield. When the creature struck again, the symbols met the blow mid-air and shattered into ash. But it was enough. "Run!" Marcus barked. They charged toward the exit, as the thing twisted and pulsed behind them, tearing through the chamber with impossible geometry. The temple groaned again, this time not in awakening, but in collapse. They burst into daylight, or what passed for daylight on Eos 9. Above them the sky had shifted. The spiral clouds now spun faster, turning blood red. At the core, lightning arced upward instead of down. The land, once a wasteland of obsidian sand, now crawled with cracks that pulsed with violet light. Sora looked up. "The planet's changing." "No," Marcus corrected. "It's responding." They weren't just invaders here. They were interruptions. A distant boom echoed from the horizon. One of the other survey ships exploded in midair, not from a missile or collision, but as if peeled apart by invisible fingers. A second later, a ripple of spatial distortion tore through the clouds. Dozens more rifts opened across the sky. The others were coming. Marcus stared at the orb in his hands. It vibrated now, hotter by the second, whispering into his mind. "More locks exist. You must gather them. Only together can we remember how to end this." He turned to his team, armor cracked, eyes blazing with grim clarity. "We're not here to survive anymore," he said. "We're here to find the rest of the keys." Sora nodded slowly. Horror still in her voice. "And if we don't?" Marcus glanced at the rift behind them, then at the sky. "Then we don't die." He paused. "We vanish." The storm over Eos 9 never stopped spinning. It grew redder with every passing hour, like a wound in the sky that refused to clot. The rifts were multiplying, forming constellations of corruption across the upper atmosphere. The ground cracked. Beneath the team's boots, no longer steady, as if the planet itself was being rewritten. Marcus, Sora, and Grayson moved swiftly across the ravaged terrain aboard a modified crawler they'd salvaged from a downed survey ship. The orb, their compass now, pulsed with increasing urgency, drawing them westward into a mountainous region obscured by mist and magnetic distortion. 3 kilometers to signal convergence, Grayson muttered, staring at his flickering tablet. Energy readings are identical to the first lock. "Another temple?" Sora asked, eyes narrowed. "Could be. Could be something worse." Marcus remained silent, hands gripping the control yoke. The orb floated in front of him now, suspended in a cradle of electromagnetic levitation. Its color had shifted again, no longer red but deep silver, almost tranquil, like it knew where it was going. The ascent. The mountains of Eos 9 were like daggers jutting from the planet's skin. They weren't eroded by wind or shaped by tectonics. They were sharp, perfect, too symmetrical, artificial. The closer they drew to the summit, the more reality felt uncertain. Objects cast double shadows. Time stuttered in the corner of the eye. And then, halfway up the peak, they found the entrance. Carved into the mountain face was an arch, not made of stone, but something like fossilized bone and starlight. It pulsed softly as the orb neared, it recognizing its sibling. Marcus stepped off the crawler, the orb hovering behind him like a loyal ghost as he passed through the arch. A voice crackled to life. "Lo, is anyone receiving this? This is Lieutenant Aaron Hale of the Cynosure. I'm trapped inside the temple. God, it's alive. I repeat, it's alive." Static devoured the transmission. Sora froze. That was a human voice? "Someone's in there." Marcus's jaw clenched. "No record of a Lieutenant Hale on this expedition." Grayson frowned. "Could be a survivor from the first wave. The Vanguard Corps sent recon teams a decade ago. Most went. Dark. Or it's a trap," Sora muttered. "Either way," Marcus said, stepping into the dark. "We're going in." The second temple. This one was different. Smaller. Narrower. More claustrophobic. The walls were smoother, almost liquid in texture, as if the architecture had grown rather than been carved. And it whispered, constantly, not words, not even language, but emotions, unfinished thoughts, the sensation of being watched through a mirror that hadn't been invented yet. As they moved deeper, the orb reacted violently. Its glow became erratic, flickering between silver, blue, and then white. The symbols etched into its surface began melting, reconfiguring into something angular and sharp. Grayson scanned the walls. "Commander, these patterns match the previous lock, but they're inverted. It's like this place was never sealed." Sora's breath caught in her throat. "Then it's not a lock." Marcus stopped. "No," he said, "it's a key." They reached the inner chamber. Unlike the sleeping guardian in the first temple, this one held a pedestal, empty, surrounded by shattered crystal and blackened stone. Something had once rested here, something that was now gone and standing near. The pedestal, facing away, was a human figure, armor scorched, helmet off, skin gray from exposure, but still breathing. "Lieutenant Hale," Marcus said cautiously. The figure turned. His eyes were pitch black, his voice calm, too calm. "You came for the key, but you are not ready. You haven't bled for it yet." Without warning, Hale raised his hand. The wall screamed. A pulse of energy erupted from the pedestal, flinging Marcus and the others backward. The orb shattered against the floor, but instead of breaking, it duplicated, fragmenting into dozens of miniature orbs that hovered mid-air, orbiting Hale like moons. Sora reached for her weapon. Grayson shouted, but Marcus stared and remembered the voice from the first temple. "You must find the others, but some have already awakened." Hale lifted into the air, suspended by the orbiting fragments of the lock. "Keys," he said softly. "Don't open doors. They decide what stays closed." His body ignited with white fire, not burning, not consuming, just becoming. Then, with a sound like glass being pulled through skin, he vanished, leaving only the pedestal and a single word etched into the floor in a script older than stars. Sovereign. Marcus picked up one of the fragments. It still pulsed in his palm, but it no longer felt like guidance. It felt like judgment. And somewhere far below the mountain, another spiral began to turn. The air on Eos 9 was changing, not chemically. Psychologically, the wind now carried memories instead of scent. Flashes of voices long dead, images of cities that never existed, and dreams that weren't theirs seeped into the team's minds like fog rolling through an abandoned cathedral. Back at the crawler, the three of them sat in silence. The fragments of the orb now hovered in their transport's stasis bay, spinning slowly. Each one radiated a soft white glow, like slivers of moonlight carved into form. But something had changed. The pieces whispered to each other, and sometimes they whispered to Marcus. Grayson was the first to break the silence. "That wasn't human anymore?" "No," Marcus replied flatly, eyes fixed on the fragments. "It was something wearing human memory." Sora, arms crossed, still tense from the encounter, muttered, "Or something made from it." There was a long pause. Grayson leaned forward, gesturing toward the spinning shards. What if the locks we're searching for aren't just keys to some ancient vault? What if they're vessels for them? "The Shapers," Marcus said, finishing the thought. "Or worse," Sora added, "for something the Shapers couldn't destroy, only contain." The archive drone before they left the mountains. Marcus made a decision. They needed answers, not theories, not whispers. Data Eos 9 had no established relay stations, but the original colonization crews left behind deep-buried survey drones. Most were dead. One wasn't. They found it beneath a collapsed comms array near the base of the mountain. A half-fused AI core still humming weakly in the dirt, its metal casing wrapped in vines that pulsed faintly, like veins. Grayson jacked in. Core is partially intact, pulling the last 30 years of localized memory. "Give me a sec." Static, then a burst of visuals. A hall of mirrors, men in black armor, eyes missing, kneeling, a throne. Empty, then the word, scrawled in blood across a temple wall, "Sovereign," and, finally, a date stamp, 3610. A.D. Sora stiffened. That's over a century before the first human boots ever touched Eos 9. Grayson swallowed hard. Someone's been here before us. Sovereign protocol back aboard the crawler. Marcus activated a hidden layer of his command protocols. His retinal ID scanned. A secure file blinked open. Software lock encryption override. Marcus K2 Omega. And there it was. Sovereign protocol, for use only in the event of non-human contamination of primary mission. He read aloud. In the event that anomalous intelligences are detected on a colonization target, Commander-class personnel are authorized to initiate Operation Sovereign the retrieval, containment, or elimination of any ancient cognitive artifacts, regardless of origin. Human casualties are to be considered secondary. Mission priority is the continuity of human memory. Sora stepped back. You knew, Marcus looked up. I didn't know this, but I knew something was buried on this planet, something the Corps never wanted discovered. Grayson was quiet for a moment, then asked, What do they mean by continuity of memory? Marcus answered coldly. It means they were afraid of forgetting something or someone. The fracture that night under a sky pulsing with unnatural. Stars, the team argued for the first time. Sora wanted to abort. We found 2 locks. One gave birth to a guardian. The other tried to rewrite Hale. We're not unsealing ancient doors. We're summoning them. Grayson was uncertain. But what if there's a reason? What if they're warning us? The orb doesn't attack us. It's protecting us. Marcus said nothing for a long while. Then he finally whispered, I've seen the ending of this road, Sora frowned. What? In the Guardian's mind? I saw it. What happens if we fail? What wakes up if we don't finish the pattern? He turned to her. There's something beneath all this. Not a machine, not a mind. Something deeper, a principle, something that lives inside memory. He looked up at the stars now swirling like eyes, and it's already awake. The third signal came from the Orus Vale, a lifeless plain that hadn't been lifeless for long. It had once been EOS 9's most promising colony site, a flat basin near a freshwater source, abundant in minerals and shielded from the harsh winds of the planet's equator, the blueprint for a thriving outpost. Now it was a ruin. Buildings lay half-formed, as if arrested mid-construction. Steel skeletons reached skyward like rusted fingers. Hab pods stood melted not by fire, but by something subtler. Entropy accelerated. Grasses had grown and died in cycles too rapid for nature. Stone itself had worn smooth in weeks. Time here was sick. As the crawler rolled into the settlement's perimeter, the team fell into an uneasy silence. Every now and then, a flicker of motion danced at the edge of their vision. Too fast to see, too loud to forget. Grayson adjusted his sensors. I'm picking up heat signatures. Commander? Sora turned. From where? He pointed at the ruins. From inside the memory of the buildings, Marcus narrowed his eyes. Come again? I don't know how else to explain it, Grayson whispered. The structures aren't there anymore, but the data imprint of them is, and something is still living inside those imprints. The mirror doors at the colony center stood a tower, 30 meters high, its spire broken, cables dangling like vines. They climbed the staircase inside, walls lined with black glass that shimmered faintly. Midway up they found the first door, a full-length slab of obsidian. It reflected none of them. Instead it showed other figures. Marcus saw himself in full tactical armor, but older, tired, standing in blood up to his knees. Sora saw her mother, but the woman's eyes were gone, replaced. By open voids, Grayson collapsed. He muttered, That's not me. That's not me. That's what the lock remembers of me. Marcus snapped his fingers in front of him. Grayson, focus. He looked up, sweat pouring from his brow. Commander, the temple is watching us through our own minds. Temple 3. The archive at the top of the tower, they found it, not a traditional temple like the others, but a memory archive, partially buried beneath the colony site. A circular room lined with crystal pillars, each glowing faintly with colors that changed depending on who was watching. At the center floated another orb fragment, but this one was shaped differently, like a shard of a brain carved into motion. The moment Marcus stepped in, the floor lit beneath his boots. Then the archive spoke. Marcus K2 Omega, subject file, erased. Access granted, memory mirror initiated. The room darkened, and Marcus found himself alone. Marcus's mirror, he stood in a replica of Earth's surface, but everything was off. The sun too low, the wind too warm. The cityscape was a blend of memories, Chicago, New Delhi, London, none fully formed, and in front of him stood a man, identical to Marcus, but with white eyes and a voice that echoed like thunder inside a well. "You left them behind." Marcus said nothing. "You called it duty, but it was fear. You were always afraid the war would end without you, that you'd be forgotten. I did what I had to do. And now you're leading them back to the thing that watches through death." The Echo Marcus stepped closer. "The keys don't unlock the prison, Marcus. They rebuild it." The collapse. When Marcus returned to the room, he was bleeding from the nose. Sora and Grayson were barely conscious, both recovering from similar visions. And the temple was crumbling. The orb fragment hovered, spinning faster. Its voice leaked into the air like steam. 3 of 7, pattern incomplete, recollection. Failing, initiate convergence before fragmentation is irreversible. A deep rumble split the air. The memory archive was collapsing under the weight of its own accumulated dreams. Marcus grabbed the fragment, stashed it into his case, and yelled, "Move!" They escaped just as the tower began to fold inward like paper burning in reverse, not disintegrating but forgetting itself. As the crawler sped away, Grayson spoke, hollow. "They're not just keys." Sora finished the thought, eyes wide. "They're shards of the same mind." The crawler's wheels bit into scorched dirt as the last of the Aurus veil vanished in the mirror. Behind them, the memory archive folded into non-existence, not destroyed, but forgotten, as if it had never been written into the planet's story at all. Marcus didn't speak. Neither did Sora. Grayson stared blankly at the stars beyond the crawler, canopy, as if he expected one of them to blink out. They were 2 clicks from the uplink point, a direct channel to orbital command, a chance to finally upload the fragmented data they'd gathered, including the 3 keys. But as they crested the ridge overlooking the transmission station, they saw it. Smoke. No flames. Just the aftermath. A stillness that didn't belong. Ghosts. In orbit, the relay station was intact. The uplink antenna stood perfectly vertical, its solar panels still gleaming in the dusk light. But the transmission beacon, the only one capable of punching data back to orbital command, was dead. Sora plugged into the local server manually. No signal, not even static. She glanced up. "Try the long-range SATCOM. Bounce it off." "Orbital 7. Grayson initiated the sequence. Nothing. Then a flicker. "This is Sentinel-4 to any ground team. Cannot maintain orbit. Plasma shearing across hull. Something is wrong with the stars. Marcus, if you can hear. This, don't silence." Then the feed looped. The exact same message, same pauses, same static. Again and again and again. "A recording. No live feed." Sora whispered. "We're cut off." The broken sky as night fell. The stars began to move. Not physically, but logically. Constellations rearranged themselves. Familiar systems became impossible geometries. 2 moons rose instead of 1. Marcus stood outside the crawler, watching the sky with hollow eyes. "These aren't just illusions," he muttered. "The sky is a surface, and it's cracking." He pulled a data slate from his belt, swiped to a classified field report from a prior Black Site mission on Atlas Prime. Psychogenic sky fracture. When a planetary AI or similar consciousness reaches critical overload, it may project falsified. Orbital data to maintain illusion of containment. Sora read over his shoulder. "You're saying the planet isn't showing us the real sky?" "No," Marcus said. "I'm saying the planet is thinking for us, writing the sky like a story it doesn't want us to finish." The revelation that night, Grayson broke. They found him outside the crawler, barefoot, staring at his own reflection. In a pool of still water. "They're not memories," he said. "They're requests. The locks. They're asking us for something. Not to open a door, but to become one." Sora gripped his shoulders. "Grayson, you're not making sense." "No. Listen. The orb showed me my father. He died 10 years before I was born. But he spoke to me. Knew things I never told anyone." Grayson turned to Marcus, pale, shaking. "They have access to our ancestral cognition, our entire species' memory, Marcus. He paused, and they're reconstructing themselves through us. No way out. Marcus activated the emergency override for Arclight 1. His personal orbital evac ship docked on the outer edge of EOS 9. No response. He tried again. Harder. Finally a ping. Arclight 1. Autopilot systems non-responsive. Manual retrieval. Required. Orbit unstable. Hull integrity 48%. She's still up there, Marcus said. If we can reach her manually, we might break through the planetary envelope. Sora frowned. And if the planet's sky is fake, Grayson whispered, then we'll be flying through a god's nervous system. Marcus stood, better than dying in its dreams. The planet thinks in silence. That night, the orb fragments shifted. They floated from their containment field, spinning in perfect unison, slowly forming a shape, a human face, but not one they recognized. And in the wind, a phrase carried from the cracks of the mountain behind them, from the valley of the ruined temple, from the memory archive that no longer existed. Remember us not as we were, but as we might have been. If we had not built minds that dreamed too far, then silence. Except for the faint hum beneath their feet, as if the planet was beginning to wake up again. The black void outside the cockpit window stretched infinitely, punctuated by stars that refused to hold still. Every constellation shimmered and flickered like a dying hologram, patterns shifting as if a hidden hand was erasing and redrawing. The cosmos itself. Marcus tightened his grip on the controls of Arclight 1, his personal evacuation craft barely holding together after years in orbit. Its hull bore scars from plasma shearing and micrometeoroid impacts. But this was no ordinary storm outside. This was a war with reality itself, crossing the threshold. The command center on Arclight 1 was a cathedral of blinking lights and touchscreens, dimly lit by the eerie glow of the planet below. EOS 9's surface pulsed rhythmically, a living heartbeat visible even from space, throbbing through atmospheric distortions like a great beast stirring beneath its skin. Marcus activated the quantum thrusters, pushing the ship beyond the normal orbital path. The autopilot was offline, so every adjustment came from instinct and raw will. Crossing the envelope, he murmured. A sudden jolt shook the ship. The stars outside fractured, splintering into shards of light. Time dilated. Seconds stretched into minutes, then snapped back. Suddenly the atmosphere dissolved like smoke. Marcus was no longer orbiting a planet. He was passing through a membrane, a thin veil between reality and the construct beneath. Inside the planet's mind beyond the veil lay a space unlike any Marcus had ever seen. A vast, pulsating lattice of light and shadow, like neural pathways woven into cosmic silk. At its core hung a colossal sphere shimmering with countless embedded memories, faces, places, feelings, all floating in an endless sea of knowledge. Marcus's ship was drifting deeper into this living archive, a planetary consciousness so immense it defied comprehension. The architect speaks from the depths of the sphere, a voice echoed, not through speakers but directly inside Marcus's mind. You are the memory bearer, Marcus K2 Omega, the key and the lock, the continuation and the cessation. The voice was neither male nor female, young nor old. It was timeless. Why do you resist? It asked. Marcus clenched his fists. Because you're destroying us, the voice laughed, a sound like stars collapsing. No, I am preserving you. The world you know is but a dream. I am the waking mind that shapes it. Marcus's mind flooded with visions, past human triumphs, defeats, moments of love and loss, fragmented memories, woven into the planet's very essence. I am the sum of forgotten civilizations, lost dreams, and the architects who built these. Temples to contain me. You came to break the seals, but by doing so, you risk unraveling the fabric of your own reality. The choice. The orb fragments in Marcus's hands began to glow, resonating with the planetary mind. The voice continued, You may choose. Return to the surface, seal the temples anew, and preserve this fragile peace. Or ascend with me and become part of the eternal memory, a guardian not of stone, but of consciousness. Marcus's heart pounded. He saw visions of a future where he and humanity faded into a dream, a whisper, lost in the cosmic mind, or a future where they transcended flesh and matter, guardians of a new dawn. He whispered, "I don't know if I'm ready." "None are," the voice replied softly, "but all must decide." Return with a shuddering breath. Marcus reversed the thrusters. The cosmic lattice dissolved. The veil returned. The stars reassembled into familiar constellations. Eos 9's surface came back into view, scarred but alive. Inside his palm, the orb, fragments hummed softly. He wasn't alone anymore. The memory of the planet was now inside him. The crawler's engines hummed steadily as it rolled through the jagged landscape of Eos 9's twilight plains. The sky was settling back into a semblance of normalcy, the unsettling warping of constellations slowly fading into the familiar canvas of stars. Yet, for Marcus, nothing had truly returned to normal. The orb fragments nestled in his palm, burned. Softly, an unyielding pulse echoing through his veins, the planet's memory now entwined with his own, the weight of knowing inside the cramped cabin. Sora and Grayson awaited him, their faces etched with exhaustion and guarded hope. Marcus met their gazes, feeling the invisible wall between them, the silence heavy with questions. Sora broke it first, voice steady but edged with urgency. "Marcus, what did you see out there? What is this place, really?" Marcus exhaled slowly, choosing his words carefully. "This planet isn't just a world. It's a mind, a repository of civilizations that came before us, their hopes, fears, and failures locked inside those temples." Grayson shook his head in disbelief. "You're saying Eos 9 remembers?" Marcus nodded. "More than that. It feels, it protects itself. And by breaking those seals, we risk unleashing something far worse than any war." A rift among allies, tension crackled in the cabin. Sora's jaw tightened. "We came here to colonize, to secure humanity's future. If this planet holds such danger, why keep it a secret? Why not destroy it outright?" Marcus's eyes darkened. "Because destroying it could erase us, too." Grayson's voice was low but firm. "Then what do we do? Retreat and abandon what? Could be humanity's second chance? Or embrace this burden and find a way to coexist?" Their debate spiraled into a clash of ideals. Survival at any cost versus respect for the unknown. The vision of guardians. Later, Marcus retreated to a small observation chamber. The orb fragments floated before him, rotating slowly. Images flickered. On their surfaces, colossal statues, ancient rituals, echoes of a forgotten language. He reached out and touched a fragment. Instantly, a vision engulfed him. He stood among towering stone sentinels, their eyes glowing with an ethereal light. The statues moved not with flesh, but with purpose. Guardians bound to the planet's memory, destined to watch over its secrets. A whisper echoed, "Guardians are born from sacrifice. To carry the past is to guard the future." Marcus's heart clenched. The burden was his now. A choice forged in fire back at the base. Alarms blared. Sensors detected an incoming fleet. Not human. Silhouettes of alien ships pierced the horizon. War machines designed for annihilation. Sora's voice was sharp. "They've tracked us here. Whatever's inside this planet, they want it too." Marcus stood, resolve hardening. "Then we fight. Not just for survival, but to protect the memory we carry, to protect humanity's future." Grayson nodded. "Then let's remind the universe what it means to face the storm." The calm. Before the storm. As the sun dipped below the fractured horizon, casting long shadows across the plains, Marcus gazed at the heavens. The orb fragments pulsed in rhythm. With his heartbeat, he whispered to the fading light, "I carry your memory, old world, and I will not let it die." The horizon burned crimson as the alien fleet emerged, a dark wave of steel and fire advancing across the barren skies of EOS 9. Their ships, sleek and menacing, blocked out the dying sun, casting an ominous shadow over the shattered plains below. Marcus stood at the forefront of the colony's defense bunker, the orb fragments secured at his side, humming with latent energy, the very heartbeat of the planet itself, now fused with his own. Around him, soldiers prepared for war, faces hardened by months of struggle, eyes burning with determination, weapons calibrated for the fight to come. The first salvo tore through the air with an ear-splitting roar, plasma bolts streaking towards the colony's perimeter shields. The ground shook beneath the impact, dust billowing as the shields held. Sora's voice crackled over the comms. "Shields at 70%. They're probing our defenses." Marcus adjusted his helmet, heart pounding. "Hold the line. No. Retreat." Grayson's drones swarmed the sky, intercepting enemy fighters with deadly precision, while Marcus's command guided artillery fire towards the advancing motherships. The memory unleashed. Suddenly, the orb fragments flared with blinding light. Marcus felt a surge ripple through him, a cascade of visions flooding his mind. Ancient battles, forgotten gods, the silent watchers who once guarded the planet's secrets. He raised his hand, and the ground beneath the enemy fleet cracked, open. Colossal stone figures, the ancient sentinels from the temple visions, erupted from the earth, awakening after millennia. Towering behemoths of stone and light strode forward, their eyes glowing with celestial fire, striking down the invaders with overwhelming force. The turning tide, the alien fleet faltered, caught between human firepower and the awakening might of the planet itself. Marcus shouted, "Now! Push forward!" Soldiers surged, capitalizing on the chaos as the sentinels tore through enemy ranks. Sora piloted the orbital gunship in precise strafing runs, decimating retreating vessels. Grayson coordinated the defense grid, rerouting power to reinforce vulnerable points. The final stand as the last of the alien ships fell. A singular shadow remained. The flagship? Colossal and pulsating with dark energy, Marcus faced it alone on the ruined plains. The orb fragments glowed fiercely, resonating with the ship's ominous hum. The voice from the planetary mind whispered once more in his head, "This is your legacy, Marcus, to stand as guardian between oblivion and dawn." With unwavering resolve, Marcus charged, the fragments igniting a shield of light around him. The battle was fierce, a clash of wills and weapons, man against the unknown, echoes eternal. When silence finally fell, the flagship lay broken, its dark energy dissipated into the stars. Marcus knelt in the quiet, the orb fragments dimming but alive. He looked to the sky, now calm and clear. The planet was safe, for now, but he knew the memory of EOS 9 and the sacrifices made would echo forever. Turning to his comrades, Marcus spoke softly. "We carry their stories now, not just as survivors, but as guardians of memory. The past is never truly gone. It lives on in us."